Hello everyone. I'm making this channel because I keep hearing people saying that there's no best ending to Elden Ring, and I disagree. I think there's a pretty unambiguously good one, so I'm gonna try to argue for it, and spoilers for all of Elden Ring, I guess. Now, you might think that there are dozens of factions in the lands between, and canonically, yeah, but thematically, there are really only five: Fire, Night, Gold, Disease, and Storm. Basically, every faction fits under one of these five, and which element a faction gets associated with depends on their ideology. For example, every faction that wants to rise up against the Erdtree is associated with fire. You have the Godskins in the Black Flame, Morgwyn in the Blood Flame, the Outer God of Frenzied Flame, the Volcano Manor, and the Giant's Flame. The metaphor for fire is also the easiest one to parse because the game just tells you what it is.
Emboldened by the flame of ambition. Smoldering with that wretched flame of ambition. Pillagers, emboldened by the flame of ambition.
I suspect that's just what the Queen wants. A dose of ambition to incite the tarnished.
Fire represents ambition, the ambition to rise against the Golden Order. However, despite there being so many factions associated with fire, no one can seem to explain why they are rebelling other than for power. None of these factions have any plans for what to do after they gain control, so the ending of the Frenzied Flame is really the ending of all the fire factions, endless destruction for power with no vision for the future, and just like all the fire factions, the Frenzied Flame's plan seems doomed to end in failure.
Lord of Frenzied Flame. I will seek you as far as you may travel. To deliver you what is yours. Destined death.
So the fire factions are defined by opposing the Golden Order, so what about the Golden Order itself? By the end of the game, it's pretty obvious that the Order kind of sucks, but most of the dialogue about why it sucks comes from Tarnished complaining that they don't like being bossed around by the Two Fingers. However, if you pay attention to the environment, you'll start to notice some more meaningful failures of the Order, mostly racism against trolls, the demi-humans, the Albinorics, and the Misbegotten, all of whom are used as slaves and treated like animals despite being sapient beings. This makes all of the endings where you keep the Golden Order ring kind of hollow, like Fia dies to end discrimination of those who live in death, a race which is not confirmed to be sentient, but she's seemingly fine with her round table roommate who is sentient being a slave. The noble Goldmask tries to reform the order, but by ending the influence of the greater will, not racial slavery. The Golden Order endings represent keeping the status quo with only some reforms that do not fully address the problem. The peace they bring is born from a lack of conflict and not an actual just system. So before I talk about the final ending, I need to talk about Rot and Storm. Now, I'm grouping these factions together because they don't have an ending, which might seem kind of weird based on how much of a presence they have in the world. I don't really know why From Software decided that they don't deserve endings, but here's my best theory. For Rot, Melania, Radon, and post-Deathblight Godwyn never have their worldview made clear. We don't know what they think of the current state of the lands between or how the world should be run. So maybe they don't get an ending because they don't care what happens. Maybe Rot represents focusing on mundane and selfish desires, and you can't change the world like that, so no ending for you. For Storm, it's a bit different, but the end result is the same. The dragons at Fair Missoula are eternally waiting for their Outer God to return, and Godric at Stormvale Castle is waiting for his chance to return home to Lindell, and even Nefeli Lu ends her questline like this.
Farewell, fellow warrior. I will remain to summon the storm, but your guidance and your fight surely lie elsewhere.
So maybe storms in Elden Ring are associated with the passage of time and waiting, something that's powerful but not something that you can change the world by doing, so no ending. And now it's time to talk about Ranni. The final faction in the game is the Knight faction, including the Nox, Celia, and Raya Lucaria. In Elden Ring, Magic from the stars and the moon are usually represented differently than other forms of magic. They're implied to come from the universe itself, sort of like a form of science. While these factions fought against the religious crusade of the Golden Order, that seems to be mostly in the past. These societies are defined by being cut off from the rest of the lands between. They are underground, magically sealed, or just plain hard to get to. Mikula's Halig Tree, despite being a location rather than a faction, is another really good example of this. It's both the most isolated place in the game and has a lot of imagery that revolves around darkness, both that of the solar eclipse and the Evergaol puzzle that looks like a dark, snowy night. So Ronnie's ending is about isolation. Ronnie and the player become isolated from the lands between, and the lands between become isolated from the meddling of the outer gods. But it goes a little deeper than that, because Ronnie is not just associated with the night and darkness, but also with the cold, making her thematically the opposite of the other two endings of Cold and Fire. She opposes the injustice of the Golden Order, but she's not about to bring an Age of Ruin like the Frenzied Flame. And that's why her ending is the good one, even though it is the most vague. We don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't think even Ronnie does, but it's the path away from subjugation and destruction, so it's the one that she follows. So that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. This was my first time making something like this, so I know I have a lot to improve on. I have some ideas for future videos, but if you have any thoughts or ideas of your own, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I will give them a look. Thank you.